My guest is so on time. He was the place kicker for the Ottawa Rough Riders, 71-83, winner of the CFL's Most Outstanding Canadian Award in 1973, two-time CFL All-Star and Grey Cup champion 1973 and 1976. Now, along with this extensive career in the CFL, Gerry co-founded the Ottawa Athletic Club, served as a family therapist in Guelph, and was a director with focus on the family. After pastoring at the People's Church in Toronto, Gerry Organ served for 10 years as Executive Director of Christian Business Ministries Canada. He's here today as Director of National Initiatives One Way Ministries is what the organization is called. And am I right? You just never stopped running. You just took different fields. Fields after fields, Gerry. Full speed ahead.
Well, it's what God has chosen to do in me. I really don't have my own agenda. I'm just sort of following wherever He leads, and it's been a terrific journey, and I'm very grateful for that journey since that moment, of course, in 1973 also, when I accepted Christ, and my love for Him has never changed, and I'm so thankful for that. But the way He's directed and orchestrated my pathway has been amazing, and no regrets, and still, as you say, still running.
Now, we'll just give it a moment. Your comment on last night's game.
Was there a game yesterday? Oh yes, the Grey Cup game. Well, my comment, first of all, I hardly could get to sleep last night because I relived those last few seconds, because as a field goal kicker, you just expect the best kickers to produce in the final moments. And of course, that missed field goal, I'm in anguish over Damon Duval's miss.
And of course, Saskatchewan was celebrating at that moment.
Of course, the moment of exhilaration for Saskatchewan. And then the irony of ironies, you get signs all over the stadium, the 13th man will make the difference, the 13th man.
Now the 13th man meeting the audience.
Meet the crowd. The crowd. And the crowd was having an impact, but it turned out that the 13th man on the field
cost them the game.
Cost them the game. So I empathize with Saskatchewan. In '81, we lost the Grey Cup to Edmonton on the last second of the game also, and I know what that feels like. So they played a great game. Saskatchewan's to be congratulated, but also in the last few minutes, Anthony Calvillo and his team did what they had to do to win. So congratulations to Montreal.
Do you miss it?
I don't miss it personally, but when I see that activity, I re-engage. And so it was really quite a moment.
Well, you are championing a cause that seems to be a thread, we didn't plan it this way, through this whole hour. Leadership, integrity, dare I say the word righteousness in our nation. Tell us what you're doing now.
Well, I work with a wonderful team of people called One Way Ministries. Our office is in Ottawa. And I hooked up with a fellow ball player by the name of Larry Brown. And Larry and I played together in the late 70s. And Larry had a passion for pastors and for pastors' wives, and has been encouraging pastors and pastors' wives to not just be leaders of the church, but leaders in integrity, leaders in righteousness, leaders in holiness, leaders in what is understood to be the deeper inner life, the inner walk with the Lord, so that they can be authentic leaders, not just leaders by title. And so I've come along now and introduced One Way Ministries to the whole business marketplace environment, where we're also looking for business leaders and politicians and lawyers and financial advisors, not only to be Christian and to go to church, but to be the church by being transformed, by being authentic, by establishing absolute integrity in their work, which is also, of course, their form of worship. So it's a joyful role, it's a difficult role, it's a challenging role, but God does not give us choices. He insists that once we find Him, that we seek righteousness, that we seek holiness. How do you do that? You don't do that by working 100 hours a week. You need to take some time, and hence the book you're holding in your hand was birthed out of the need for men and women, particularly in business, but in all walks of life, that they need to take time to be holy, because God says, be holy, for I am holy.
It's interesting that you actually phrased it, take time to be holy, which is a hymn.
Yes, it is.
And am I ever thrilled? I just opened to one of them here. In this book, you have several hymns. You know, I'm hearing from people about, you know, the power and the blessing of singing in your quiet time with the Lord. Actually singing these beautiful words that so often are rich in theology.
Yes.
And woo, just begin. It is a praise and prayer journal.
It is, yeah. We need to spend time in God's presence. One of the key words in the text is sanctification, and you don't hear too many sermons.
There,
and
look at this page. I want you to see both sides.
Yeah.
Sanctification and
Yeah.
one secret to holiness. This is the real goods.
Yeah, exactly. God's work is not only to cleanse us from sin through the blood of the cross, but that's the beginning of the journey on earth. The rest of the journey on earth is to seek His righteousness and to put ourselves on the anvil, put ourselves in a position where God can do His sanctifying work in us. And so many of our leaders and our board members and some of our pastors and business leaders, they spend so much time fulfilling the job description and the role and walking in their power and entitlement of position that they don't take the time to allow God to do His best sanctifying work deep inside their soul so that they can become righteous leaders full of integrity. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm searching for.
And okay, one of the other factors in this delicious book, it truly is history bites and hero slices.
Yes.
This is my terms. I'm sorry. But you know what? I've never even seen that picture of Dietrich Bonhoeffer under Prayer is Difficult, top right there. Certainly one of my heroes of the faith. I love to quote him. Just a man of great depth, executed by the Nazis just before the end of World War II. Eric Liddell, look, we got a whole page for the great Scotsman who was the Olympic star, and some think he buried his life in China, died of a brain tumor there. Not true. He invested it. He invested it, and so many great leaders came out of his modeling and his example in a Japanese prisoner of war camp. Oh, I could go on and on.
And what did Eric say? When I run, I feel His pleasure. When we work, when we do what God has given us to do in righteousness, we can always sense the pleasure of God.
You said something interesting in the green room, and it makes perfect sense, Gerry. You say businessmen impact more people than pastors.
Well, you know, your average church in Canada is less than 200 congregates. Most business people, financial advisors, and professionals in the marketplace are seeing more people than that on a weekly basis. And the question is, what is their influence? Are they impacting every person they see by their walk with God, their righteousness, their integrity, honesty, their passion and compassion for other people? Or are they just sort of doing a job and going to church? There's a huge eternal difference in how marketplace leaders are expected to serve the Lord while being involved in their particular profession.
There is so much in here. The famous picture of Confederation. There are our founding fathers, speaking of leadership. A lot of research here. I just love the content. But there's work to do. Here is where you're making your journal notes. How do you want this prayer journal, how do you envision it being used by men and women?
It's just a beginning, really. As I've traveled the nation and talking to busy business people, not only do they not take much time to pray, but they really don't know how to get started. So this is a Sunday through Saturday journal where they can actually look at various topics on the family, on the church, on marketplace, workplace, the persecuted and the poor that we can never ignore as believers. And so there's a different theme each day. So if you open up on Wednesday, you'll see the theme and you can pray according to that theme, and you can make some journal notes and some thoughts and some scriptures. Lots of opportunity in the book to read and reflect on Scripture, because this book is not important. Scripture is important. This becomes a tool in the hand of a journeyman Christian.
In a post-Christian generation, you know, we need to have one of these in each household. Oh, Canada's in here, the Lord's Prayer. It just gets us back to that foundation. It's kind of cool today that we're talking about one goal.
That's it.
On the heels of Grey Cup. This is a goal we can all embrace. It's life-changing. This book is available everywhere. Gerry?
Christian bookstores, chapters.
Come on back again, because I want to talk more about leadership It's a theme we can't walk away from.
You've got a date.
It's right on time.